Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? So, this KVK was pretty interesting. Of course, I'm going to try to explain to you guys what rain trapping is, as well as how to do it. So, you might notice that Snipe Life comes here, and he comes out to attack me. And of course, I've got a fake gear and a war gear. Pretty simple. Fake gear can be anything that looks like you are basically not in war gear. Yeah, the worse you look, the better. Obviously, monster hunting gear seemed to be enough for these guys, so I figured, well, that must do the trick. Of course, these guys are, a few hundred million might more than I am. I'm only 106 million might at the time. And of course, the trick to this, guys, is that when you want to rain trap, you've got Battle Fury, you know, in this sense that, you get away with it, like the attack, like there, he almost got me, just by a hair, but lost 146k archers, I believe. Again, it was a huge loss, but it was just so that he could see what I actually had. And again, I never want to give the enemy that opportunity to know how to zero me out, so the first thing I do is I change my gear out, and shortly thereafter I also make sure to get that, infantry phalanx moved over, changing those formations, that way that, they don't know what to use against me. So if they're going to counter me with cav, they're going to go to range. I'll go infantry to prevent them from being able to, to do any further damage. Again, the whole reasoning is so that you can keep your enemy on their toes. Again, it's all a matter of like messing around and just getting it to work for you, and that's, I think for the most part, though, for rain trapping, guys, as you can tell, like this guy was, pretty decked out at the time, over in monster hunting gear and stuff. But for the most part, he wasn't like really super, like he wasn't in war gear, wasn't trying to attack me, which, I don't do this, guys. At least during a KVK, don't be dumb. A lot of the major players, though, for some reason, I find that a lot of them have a lot to lose. So if you guys are interested in doing this, all you really need is get your military research up. You don't necessarily need to have it all the way maxed, but at the time I had everything maxed, except for defense and army offense, for army. Again, the real trick to here, though, as you can tell, is I'm sending one troop attacks. I'm infuriating Avatrex and Melchik for fun, which that was enjoyable. I had actually gotten Ice Water to hit me just on that basis alone. Part of the reason I do this too is we want to keep people on their toes. Now, of course, communicating with your guild is a must. So getting people to rain you when proper. Now, even like this guy who's a billion might. Again, it doesn't matter how much might these guys have. If you do exactly what I'm doing, it doesn't matter. Like a solo hit, if you've got at least a mil reigns and you've got at least 250% plus attack on 3 stats, I guarantee you, no matter what they send, even if they're a billion might, they probably won't have anything to actually counter you at all, just on the troops as it is. So as you can tell, here comes Grimp, so I switch over, and once again, just it's these reports were beautiful. I absolutely love these reports. So as you can tell, I checked to see what he had, what he was sending. Again, these teams, they were all gold teams that he was sending at me, but as you can tell, boom, just 100k dead. Absolutely no dice there for him. Again, a real trick to this too, though, is you want to make sure that, if you're gonna get hit twice, shield if you absolutely need to, and if you can't shield, shelter, and then put the rest of your troops very quickly, rain them into a shielded player when you've got Battle Fury. It works out great. Obviously, I didn't have enough troops that it was too difficult to scatter them out, but obviously the bigger the trap you are, the more difficult it becomes to actually do that. So here I had to use speed ups. I didn't really want to, but because I didn't have very many gems at the time, I was being a little careful with how much gems I had. Because again, trapping is, generally speaking, you're gonna spend a little bit of gems to do it, but the kills are absolutely fantastic. And again, it's moving those formations around to make sure that they don't know what to counter me with at any given time. But of course, like here, you know, uh, I had a pretty good time, messing with them. Sitting there, one troop attacking them, keeping them busy. As you can tell, like here, what you'll see here in a bit is pretty much, I infuriated Icewater before, and of course I do apologize, guys. I didn't catch that on record, so you won't be able to see it, but I will be able to show you the reports here soon. But of course, SGK started porting in, bringing in more people. Again, fake rallies are being used here as a decoy because I actually intentionally want them to come and attack me. Of course, these guys want to rally me out. Whenever somebody tries to rally you out, all you gotta do is just send your troops, rain them up into players with shields, and just shelter it up. You don't even need a shield because a lot of the time, if they're dumb enough to want to solo you, or try to solo you, they take the gamble. And I kind of figure if they hit me, then I'll have enough in there in terms of reins that I'll still eat it. But obviously, it's all a loss if that happens. But it's better than losing your leader, in my opinion. Of course, I didn't even have full reins at the time, as you can tell. I wasn't even pushing to mill reins, so I was kind of getting a little worried there. But I mean, as you can tell, like between Grimp and Icewater and all those guys, we were infuriating quite a few people. Then again, the trick to this, at least here, like you can see, they tried to rally me out. So again, I avoided that. So here's Icewater, 107k dead. It was an 8 mil might drop. That was pretty expensive on her, and as you can tell, there was quite a few Drake Raiders and heroic cannoneers she had to pay for. And again, it's fun to watch. Here you lost 146k archers. It's absolutely beautiful to do this, guys. It's absolutely fun to trap. And again, like I said, you want to push at least 200k or so. At the time, I was pushing about 150k or so tier 3 per type, and then about 100k tier 1 per type. It's really all it took. Again, as you can tell, I had a full team there down below for army attack. Because again, I'm pushing my stats as much as I can. Pushing those stats as high as you possibly can is ultimately will give you the advantage when you're trapping like this. Because again, you don't want to give these guys any form of advantage on you in any way. You don't want to be countered at all, and that's what makes a trap so swell. Of course, when you're rain trapping like this, and you're 106 mil, you're probably wondering how did I do it? Well, you can see here, I'll one troop attack somebody, which again puts battle fury on you. Okay, but if you play this smart, you shouldn't have to worry about getting zeroed out, especially if you're not super big. You don't have to be very big. In fact, having a mil troops is great. Having 600k infirms is great, but at the time I was only pushing 281k infirms, and I was doing just fine. And part of the reason I was doing so swell is you got to play this tactically. You got to be a little careful about who you can take hits from and who you can't take hits from. Obviously taking a rally is not exactly a good idea. But if you want to rally, if you want to soak rallies, okay, tier 3 rallies in particular, I would recommend buffing that up to 600 to 700k tier 1, and definitely having that higher infirm count. Again, having the ability to solo trap is great, but if you can't solo trap, then rain trapping is really not a bad option, because again, it's a lot less expensive for you to do. And obviously, see, this guy here, he allowed me to scout him, so I knew exactly how much he had. Not very wise. You want to make sure you have an anti-scout on it at all times during a KVK, guys. If you make that mistake, frankly, at that point, I know you don't know what you're doing. And again, constantly irritating these guys is kind of the idea. Fake rallies, get one troop rallies just to call in more of their buddies. Because again, the idea here is to just irritate and irritate and irritate. Poke the bear, pretty much, is the approach with this. The idea being that if you can frustrate them enough, you can actually get into their head. And that's kind of what I try to do is, I want to get these guys angry at me. I want them to come after me. I want them to fight. you know, and so like here was an 8 mil, so I thought, oh, I'll go ahead and scout him, give him a scare. You know, maybe he's got someone big in his guild, and he'll say, "Oh, big guy coming to fight my little dude." Oh, I don't think so. You know, I mean, little things like that. Yet I didn't even bother to check what was in the guild, but as you can tell, again, another scout. Don't ever let this happen, guys. You mess up seriously, really bad. Of course, at the time, you know, he was playing wise, but putting his leader in a shelter, but he clearly didn't have very much to spare on his head, which I don't recommend doing. And of course, you know, KC finally brought themselves a guy, and again, I was prepared for this attack. He ended up deciding that he wanted to rally me, so of course I decided that, you know what, I think we'll go ahead and soak the rally. So as you can tell, I was just sitting here kind of waiting. You know, I'm almost trigger finger ready to just switch my gear out the moment they think they can attack me. I try to be real quick about it. Sometimes just sitting in the quick swap is actually generally the better way to go about it. And again, keeping your sound on and being able to see the red lines are about all the indicator you get of an attack. So like here, I got a little jumpy there once a scout came through, but you know, as you can tell, like within only a few minutes, you know, it was pretty interesting. You know, because again, these people weren't messing around. But you know, for the most part, guys, I mean, at least on that, you know, at least you get the idea. Of course, like I said, you know, when it comes to trapping somebody out like this, you got to be really careful about, you know, who you're trapping, what you're trapping, and of course, if they rally you, make sure to send your troops, reinforce them up in the shield, and that's really all there is to it, guys. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, for the most part, I'm going to show you some reports, and we'll go ahead and look at that. So, yeah. So as you can tell, like you know, just speeding this up as quick as I can. You know, as you can tell, you know, it's like immediately I took that hit, soaked it, and had really no problem at all. But you know, again, it was a huge rush. Um, but you know, again, this attack was kind of like one of those things where you're like, oh great, you know. So this guy's coming up. He's, you know, he's getting ready to rally me out. You know, and I'm preparing to, you know, again, I never want to let these guys know what my formation is, so I never give them the ability to see what my gear is. This is something that you don't ever want to do, and obviously having an anti-scout on is like the most important thing you possibly have on at this point. In fact, I've even, you know, contemplated between a 20% attack boost. Yeah, at that point, I was, you know, contemplating, well, would that make a difference? And in these cases, it's just not worthwhile. So as you can tell, you know, I've got my allies, you know, speeding up their reins, and you know, the idea here is we're gonna try to soak this hit, you know, as much as we possibly can. Again, you can only do so much though. At the time that we were contemplating porting, you know, that's, you know, that was kind of the curiosity, was that maybe I could port and I could wait out the, you know, wait the attack. But then I realized I couldn't get the reinforcements, and I was like, well, okay, never mind. So, you know, of course, BRR came in. You know, Phoenix B was like, ooh boy. And later on, we actually end up trapping this guy because of about the same gullible reason, which is that, you know, he figured that he could take me out. I'm surprised he didn't like figure that out earlier, because these guys made the mistake the first time. I'm surprised that he did later on. But so, you know, here comes their rally. You know, again, I checked to make sure, and you know, and then from that point forward, I'm like, okay, well, all right. So you know, I got my war gear on. I'm pretty much set to go. Again, I always like to put my war gear on about 20 seconds prior to the rally. That way, they don't have enough time to change shit out. So like there, that was a huge hit. It was really expensive. That was actually probably the first hit in KVK that actually did cost me quite a bit. Again, you know, during this time, you know, had they been smart, they would have probably tried to send solos. And that would have probably been problematic for me if they had done that. But again, I was quick to gym it, and make sure that they couldn't do it again. And of course, I thought, oh great, here they're gonna go for round 2, but this time they know what I've got in there. Of course, I changed my gear out as quick as I could to make sure they, couldn't see what I had. Yeah, but otherwise, that's that, guys. Obviously, so we'll continue on to the next one now, real quick. So hold up. All right, but as you can tell, they tried rallying me out, and they did all their, they did as much as they could. Obviously keeping communication with your guild is a must during a KVK. Of course, I had Kane, refill me with Reins, poured it up by the up northern part of the hive, refilled my resources. Because again, when you're trapping, you want to make sure you've got enough resources that you're set to go. So, of course, at the time we were contemplating hitting forts and stuff. But of course, we opened up a spot, and again, this is the hook, line, and sinker with hive trapping. Is you kind of wait for these guys. Now here's BR Phoenix B. Now you might have remembered this guy from earlier who was sitting there trying to hit guys. Again, same deal. We just kind of sat this one out. We just waited. Again, I checked to make sure. I looked at the gear he's got, and I know what he's got. He's infantry based on his gear. Looking at my reins, I was high in infantry, so it was kind of a convenient time for me to be in infantry. Because I figured, okay, I can probably beat this guy on an infantry to infantry basis. I could go into cav and beat him, but I didn't have enough cav at the time, so I thought, well, okay, that's no big deal. And again, the idea being, to piss them off. So, I was like, here, come fight me. I have battle fury. Fight me. And it's the ultimate bait, because they know they can try to rally you out, they can try to solo you out, etc. But because if you've got enough reins and you've got enough, if you've got enough tier 1 in there, it's really not that bad. But I say, as you can tell, I pulled my troops last second. This is a trick, because again, now he thinks, oh shit, he almost hit me. Now he's pulling his troops back. I could hit these troops before they get back. And so then I pop my war gear on. And voila, as you can tell, right there, right then and there, boom, loses it right there. Again, the same thing, like I soaked the hit, no problem at all. Like right there, as you can tell, Phoenix B lost 97,000 right there, and another 146,000. Like that was not cheap. Obviously had reins refilled, and yeah. And that's pretty much it for KVK, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope this helped you out with rune trapping a little bit. And of course, feel free to subscribe and watch more of my content. I hope I have more on the way, but this was a pretty fun KVK, and there you go, guys. See you next time.